To police officers, how are you feeling seeing how the situation was handled in Texas? This department has now created a situation where parents will show up to a future incident armed and not likely to take direction from officers on the scene. Cue next year's story where a parent gets shot by the police in a mix-up. Next year? Give it a month. I'm a former police officer. I'm sickened by it. Especially since this is exactly the opposite response to an active shooter scenario than what the training dictates. In Europe at least, when you arrive at the scene of a suspected active shooter, you are taught to ignore the usual SOP in case of, for instance, a hostage situation or barricaded suspect. In those cases, you set up a perimeters and call in the SWAT team, who are equipped and trained to deal with that stuff. But in an active shooter scenario, you grab whatever gear you have in the trunk, and you go in, making as much noise as you can along the way. You shout "Stop! Police!" at the top of your lungs and you push as fast as possible to the source of the shots. You don't stop to render aid to the wounded people you meet along the way, stepping over screaming victims if you have to. The reason for this approach is 1, to intervene and stop the killing as fast as possible, but also 2, that most active shooters turn the gun on themselves when they know law enforcement is closing in. You keep moving, shouting and shooting, anything to stop the situation either by neutralizing the gunman yourself, or better yet, have him end it himself. It's a risky and horrible part of the job, one that I was happy to never have had to experience in reality. But if you roll up to a situation like that and you're too scared to do what you're paid and entrusted to do, then hand in your badge and go flip ducking burgers. They had an active shooter exercise the week before, and they just went and did the opposite? Unbelievable. But this time it was real and so scary. The problem with exercises is that there are generally no real risks. It's a bit like martial arts training. Do compliant drills and they might work for self-defense, but there's also a good chance you can't deal with resistance or the adrenaline in your body ducks up your trained responses and you just go with what's natural. And if you do resistant training in competitions such as MMA, you have a better chance in self-defense, but there's still a chance that adrenaline fucks your shit up when you're taken by surprise. But yeah, either their training was super shit as to what they should do or they are not disciplined enough to follow their training. Either one is a big problem. And you also have to wonder what other procedures they might not be following on a regular basis. Undisciplined and scared people, with special legal protections, are dangerous people to be giving guns to. Your body adrenaline going mad in a real-life situations is one of the main reasons you train and repeat often. It's so in an emergency you don't have to really think, you can fall back on your training. I was a police officer back in the early 00s for a little over 7 years and my dad is a retired, lifelong military and civilian police officer. We were talking about this situation earlier today and we both agreed that rushing into that situation may have been our last actions as living humans but would have done it. My dad said better to die trying than to live being branded a coward and thinking what if. That whole protect part of protect and serve is an absolute in a situation where 7 and 8-year-old kids are being shot and them hanging around outside is unforgivable. I firmly believe that every officer that busied themselves tasing parents should, at a minimum, be fired and nationally blacklisted from ever being in law enforcement for life. Same for their chief. Edit 1, I use the whole protect and serve motto as an example of what they should be doing. Edit 2, I know Therese not a blacklist for bad cops but I wish there was. Pretty ducking angry. I am retired now, but taught active shooter response for over 10 years. Uvalde ISD chief should resign and turn in his credentials and get a job digging ditches. Thank goodness Bordick took the initiative, even if they waited and listened to a rondo for 30 minutes. Instead the chief is running for city council, can't even make this shit up. Hess not running, he ran and was voted in 3 weeks ago. Appears like Hess not backing down. Yahoo.com. He's actually really stupid. Does he not realize there is now a target on his back? Like. Literally. How many of those parents are thinking about it? He's already got 20 fathers in grief probably seriously considering murdering him, the town in general also probably wants him dead, he's becoming the symbol of everything wrong with the police system, the entire nation ducking hates this guy, like he managed to unify everyone on an issue in a way that hasn't happened since 911. And he's basically insisting that he wants to walk further into the spotlight and just whip his balls out, slam M on the table, and taunt everyone? Calling it. I give him 4 weeks. 5 tops. Don't American gun laws exist not to protect oneself but to allow the people to take down their government with force if it becomes oppressive? Disgusted. My department had an all-cops run-in strategy ready to go. We even had an airport stairs on a pickup truck to drive to the side of the school if it was a hostage situation on the second floor. We coordinated with firefighters to have multiple cops on the platform on top of the ladder on the fire trucks, and the fire trucks would drive us up to the sides of the school and the cops would make entry through the windows. We practiced breaking down the doors, and also practiced breaking through the drywall and studs if the door was barricaded. We were told any cop who didn't go into a school shooting situation unless told by the chief otherwise would be fired. We were also told that if we kneeled on any suspect we would be fired, and the chief would recommend to the DA to charge us, and would give the evidence themselves. This was also well before BLM. When I see shitty cops clowning around I am pissed. That's why cops all over have bad names. It's because of clowns like these. Sounds like you had a good boss, glad to hear it. Shocked. Confused. Every active shooter training out there trains us to hunt down the threat and eliminate it as quickly as possible to stop the killing. It's been this way for at least a decade now. When I first started hearing about officers not going in and treating it like a barricaded gunman, I thought no way. That's impossible. I could see one cowardly officer freezing up and not going in, but all of them? Not a chance. It's looking more and more like that's exactly what happened here though. I'm just in disbelief. I mean, even if these officers were undertrained by their department, I don't believe they hadn't been exposed to the basic principles of active shooter response in some fashion. Even if they were ordered to stand down, duck that. That's an order I'm disregarding, and I am confident many officers I know would do the same. I just don't get how this type of response could have happened. This is what I don't understand. How is it that not even one of those men said duck it, I'm going in? Looking at the photo of the police in question, huge generalization to follow, and I apologize, I'm shocked that this wasn't the kind of situation that at least one of them had waiting for. The chance to go in and shoot first kind of thing. To be the hero. Even if he hadn't been able to save anyone or take down the shooter, that police officer would have been known as only that one police officer. Now, they are just all cowards. I mean, even the parents knew this was the right thing to do. The dad who asked for the vest and gun and the mom who bypassed the police to get her kids were the most rational people there. When little kids are in danger, you don't think about your own safety, you do everything in your power to protect them. This 100x. I think I would have died with my kid on this situation. Either by getting shot by the gunman or the cops for not letting me go in. Exactly this. If my child died in this fashion, my life would be over anyway. I don't care if all I had was a brick, nothing would stop me except the police, which is exactly what happened to many parents. Literally the first thing I remember Tuesday is getting a noti of an active shooter in one of my crime groups. The tweet ISS was from the school district. They literally tweeted active shooter on campus, Robb Elementary, please do not come to the school. My immediate thought was duck that. I'm glad so many parents just immediately went up there, but they tried to dissuade them from the jump. So fucked. The first thing I thought reading that is Therese, no way in hell I'd listen. My kid just finished kindergarten Tuesday. After this incident in Texas, parents will now be grabbing their guns and heading to the school when they get a tweet like this. The least the cops can be allowed to do is get the duck out of the way. They might as well be going into schools and shooting kids themselves if they are going to make sure the shooter is alone with them. Ashamed of this agency and their so-called chief. If the shooter is isolated, you wait because time is on your side to negotiate. If they are actively shooting people, action must be taken. Just because the SCOTUS says Therese no duty to intervene, I think most agencies' policy and, obviously, public opinion beg to differ. We should all be ashamed of the SCOTUS that would rule that police have no duty to intervene or to protect the public. Agreed. What else is the point? Actual law enforcement here. It's disgusting, and I'm embarrassed. Training aside, and hearing about what you should do by keyboard commandos. In this case, you're absolutely right. I've been present at active shooter situations, like the real ones. It's not a time to wait for orders or a scene commander. It's a time where you tell whoever is on the other end of the radio hold the channel for emergencies. I only want to know when someone else is coming inside and from where. And you know what, ducking sucks. My back hurt for 3 weeks afterwards, pushing through barricaded doors and feeling like I was walking into an ambush. It wasn't fun, but it's not supposed to be. It's your fucking job. From what I'm reading seeing, it sounds like just general cowardice and lack of training. The only people who did the right thing were the SHE and Border Patrol agents who just heard it coming out and went in even though it wasn't their responsibility. Something that stuck with me throughout my tenure in the Army. When the time comes for you to rise up and save the day, you're not going to be a hero, you're going to default to your lowest level of training. Shit, small town, departments are terrifying, and generally employ bottom of the barrel people, in my limited, and probably pretentious, opinion. Yimph. What makes it even worse is that they have received training and the training specifically says you may have to go in alone and to not wait as mass shootings can get worse very fast. https twitter.com/Mikabaker status 1530357140191186944 S21 ka octave 5c6 irdugitivu. The first officers may be risking their lives. Thank you for linking that, this is too important. Someone had to face the active shooter. Deliberate inaction is a choice and this is who the Uvalde police officers chose to go up against the gunman as he was committing mass murder. Trained SWAT members armed to the teeth wearing body armor, innocent children and teachers. They might still be waiting outside the classroom if not for the Border Patrol finally overruling local cops and saying duck your orders, we're going in.